Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing another video today, and I just decided to impromptu do this video. And I've just kind of been thinking about these things because you'll click on something on Netflix or something else, and you'll be like, following it kind of brainwashes you into, following all these political videos and like watching all this anti-woke stuff. It's kind of like, oh my God, and this is going to sound weird, but like, oh, there's a mixed race couple on the cover photo and stuff. And it makes you kind of warped when you're consuming media. But it made me think about something with regards to like, why do people hate diversity as far as like watching movies or anything like that? So now, growing up, like you can see that there were movies like with Morgan Freeman or even like Gleaming the Cube, where they try, they want to censor an interracial romance because I think the producers of some of those movies used to say, well, it's not going to fly well in the South, it's not going to, we have to censor that part of the movie. So it's kind of like that bothers me as much as this forced thing, this forced inclusion. It's really a really weird, jagged edge to really go on. And that's what I'm kind of talking about with this video. So the thing is when you have these unrealistic situations in movies or whatever. And that's really what bothers people about this. It's not that there's an interracial couple. But let's say there's an interracial couple in 1965 in a fictionalized account of something that happened. But the interracial couple, nobody like in the movie questions it, and there's no backlash. Now people would call that more woke because it's talking about the politics of the situation. But as a matter of fact, that is more realistic to what would be happening at the time, in certain areas at least. So when people talk about forced inclusion, forced diversity, it's like the movie makes it so clear that they're putting this in. It's like, hey, look at me over here. It's like, I think it was one of the last Netflix horror shows I watched. It was the Edgar Allan Poe one, not Midnight Mass, but the God, I'm trying to think of what it was. House of Usher. Follow the House of Usher. So, and at the end when they revealed that the guy, was gay and stuff, the main character, I had mixed feelings about how they revealed it. And sometimes it does seem like, you have to. It's this shock ending. We have to show this now. What happens is when they have, and that movie was, that show was a little bit weird because I think it seemed like it was this, I did enjoy it. So, as I enjoy much of the creators' stuff, but it had this weird tone to some of the stuff. And I don't know if it's just I'm getting old or what, but when they have these types of characters in there, so I don't know what to say about some of this stuff, but when they beat you on the head with something, and how to ascertain that is really dependent on the eye of the beholder. So you may watch a movie and say, some right winger might say, oh my God, they're trying to force inclusion in this movie. And then I'll take a good example is It, the film version. The recent film version, which I actually enjoyed the first half at least. The second half I didn't enjoy as much, but I liked both of them as far as stuff goes. So I watched those movies and I quite enjoyed it. Now they had, this homophobic murder featured in one of them. And I was like, at first I was like, I haven't read the book in many years, so I didn't remember that this was actually part of the book. And at first I was like, oh, well, here we go, but it's okay. It's still a good movie. As long as it doesn't detract from the movie. And more on that in a second. So I watched it, and then I realized then I was reading about it. I was remembering that this is part of the original book. So was Stephen King woke in 1981 or whenever? I think he wrote it early 80s, right? Was he woke? Was he forcing inclusion? Now, I also sort of liked how they didn't fall upon whether or not one of the characters was gay or not in the movie, the second movie. If they would have said it, it would have been kind of too. It's like they leave to the viewer's imagination. I thought the movies actually were really good because this is how it would have been actual woke. And I'll tell you how. Censoring the way that people talked in the 80s. I've seen this happen in movies. Like, they actually said stuff that they would have said as kids in the 80s, as a person who might at least have intimate knowledge of people that grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 2000s. No. I might actually have intimate knowledge about how people grew up in the 80s. Shocker. As someone who has intimate knowledge of someone who grew up in the 80s, then, I know that that's the way people talk. But if they would have censored that, see, I've seen stuff where this is how that would have been woke if they would have censored it. And there was already characters of color in the book, and the way that the dynamic went in the book was very close to the movie. So it's actually fine. I didn't see really a lot of wokeness to the movie. But that's an example of how it would be woke. Now, when you talk about historical stuff, that's where I draw the line on diversity, because when you're portraying something from a certain period where the last, person of color was like 5,000 miles away, and then they have a town of people, of all sorts of different people and stuff, and like stuff like that. Then it's like a diverse town, like in medieval times in some region that was Nordic or whatever. Then then we're kind of stretching credulity for diversity reasons. So, but unfortunately, this is a phenomenon that I have noticed about myself is watching things now. I'm scrolling through things. I'm like, does that mean I'm racist? I don't know if it means I'm racist or I've been indoctrinated with some borderline racist stuff or whatever you want to call it. Because like I said, I'm of the belief that they shouldn't, like in the 90s and the 80s when they definitely put stuff on the cutting board where there was like a mixed race couple or something. They didn't want to show them kissing. Like, I don't know if it was a Pelican Brief or whatever that movie was. Like, the producer said, this won't fly well in Tennessee, so we better not have an interracial couple or whatever. And then I know Gleaming the Cube at the end, I talked about this in a previous video. They had Christian Slater about to kiss that Asian girl, and they cut it right before. And I don't know if that was I don't think it was for dramatic effect. I think it was actually trying to cut that out because it seemed like a weird edit too. Good movie though, Gleaming the Cube, watch it. I don't think it was the director's idea, by the way, to do that. That's my thought. I don't think he wanted to do that. He wanted to portray this slowly building romance between Christian Slater and I don't even remember her name, unfortunately. So yeah, I think it is a thing that happens. But people hate it with historical things like that stupid Netflix show about Cleopatra. It's just mind-numbingly dumb. Now, I think Netflix is woke but also anti-woke, and I'll tell you why. Because they'll have Tim Dillon or Joe Rogan do a comedy special. Who knows? They might have Dave Smith do one. I would love that actually, because I like the guy. But yeah, you might, you have that stuff, and then you have Cleopatra or these weird historical dramas where they put people that were not even part of the government. Just it's a very weird. They play both sides of the game, in my opinion. I mean, I think they are more liberal, but they like to play both sides a little bit, which I think from a Machiavellian kind of like business scumbag perspective, I kind of respect in this weird, strange way. But I like that they actually see that their audience is diverse, So, I mean, they got a lot of criticism about having Dave Chappelle do a special or whatever, but then they'll do some criticism. They'll have criticism about some stupid Cleopatra documentary or one about ancient aliens or whatever, like the Sci-Fi Channel. But yeah, this diversity thing is a complicated thing for me. and it's hard to like deal with. And I'm just expressing my feelings. And when I see this stuff, like for a while, you go to the mall and stuff and just see all these billboards, and I'll see all these commercials. Even some relatives, very liberal, very left-wing relatives, have told me like, I know all the commercials have interracial couples. Now, the problem I have with it is I don't care if they do that. But if that's all you see, what is going on? Is it the media telling you that there's too much diversity, or DEI, or wokeness, or is it actually, is the chicken or the egg first? You know, is it like, is that actually happening by, you know, are you just noticing it? It's like one of those things that you have to think about. It's like, I remember there was a lot of pictures. Now, what my problem with that is, how many couples like that are there in proportion to the regular population in society? You know, how many couples are like that? How many gay couples or trans and a person, you know, and a cis person couples are there in proportion to the population to have them represented in a commercial or a number of commercials? I remember watching some right-wing channel, I don't remember what it was, but it might be Romanian V or whatever, who I actually like somewhat. Because I watch both left and right perspective. I watch Kyle Kalinske and then I watch Romanian V. I should stop watching politics for a while. It's gotten really toxic and terrible, especially since what happened. So they were in all these commercials in Britain. Why are they all, or maybe it was Lotus Eaters or one of the Lotus Eaters. I don't know. I prefer Romanian V over Lotus Eaters. Hell, I still prefer Styx Hexenhammer to Lotus Eaters because there's little kernels of stuff that he says, and you can tell like he's not totally on board. I'm not saying he's a grifter, but he definitely tailors some of his opinions to reflect his audience a little bit subconsciously, in my belief. It's like he is a little bit more of a leftoid than people probably realize. I mean, he goes to Europe all the time, for fuck's sake, you know, Northern Europe, you know. So I don't believe he's as right wing as people think, or he thinks. Maybe he was talking about welfare during one streaming session. You know, he's like, I support food stamps. I'm like, whoa, dude, you know, you sound like a leftoid. But you know, you always use the word leftoid, so I don't understand. It's a very confusing time. So I don't know, but yeah, I watch these videos and stuff, and I try to watch stuff on different platforms. I'm like, is that really accurate? See, the Stranger Things, I think is a great, spectacular show for a modern franchise, well, especially for a modern franchise. I don't like all of it. There's some things I don't like, but I actually really do like it. At least it's original, for Christ's sake. I mean, original with some liberties involved, of course, but at least it's sort of original. I'll just say that. I mean, it's so original. The new Ghostbusters kind of ripped it off. The newest Ghostbusters movies. So, and say what you will about Stranger Things. You know, I've watched it season 1. I know people aren't fans. It's like Ghost. Like, people are very polarized if you mention Ghost, the band. But now, as long as you have listened to Merciful Fate and King Diamond and like them, and have heard all the albums and have actually gotten into them, or tried to get into them, then I'll respect the Ghost fan. But people are just jumping on the trendy bandwagon, then whatever. But anyways, I actually like Ghost. And I like In Solitude more for one of that type of baby diamonds, as I call them. I don't know if Ghost qualifies as a baby diamond at this point, but their first album definitely does. Baby diamonds, I call them. Ghost, In Solitude, Attic, Portrait, Them. Not they, them. Just kidding. Actually, that's a funny story. I have a funny story. I was wearing a King Diamond shirt at a mall, and this like guy, you know, has one of those booths selling some crap. He's like, "Are you sure? What is them? Are you a male?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a male." And was wearing the King Diamond shirt. I was an idiot. It was pretty funny though. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. You know, it's hard to deal with. It's like my the dangers of being anti-SJW video from years back. It's like, well, how do you get into, how do you really tread that line where you don't go to the other extreme? You have to really be careful. It's like a thin razor's edge, balancing on a ledge. You know, to quote the song, you know, it's very tough to really go on there, and that's one of the things that is really defined my life the last 10 years plus. It's like, oh, are you a right winger? Are you a libertarian? Are you a leftoid communist? It's like, well, I don't know if I define myself by these rules or titles anymore. I mean, basically, I like a lot of what the West has, like the other Western countries, that I think we should be more like. I think we should be more like Japan and more like Northern Europe and have like bullet trains everywhere, that would be great. That's my opinion. I mean, that's what I believe. I like bullet trains. I don't like trains, literally, like those types of trains. Don't attack me for saying that I like trains. Not that there's anything wrong with trains, but anyways. So anyways, that's what I have to say. Diversity is a really weird thing to get in your head when you actually think about it. And it's kind of unfortunate that you can see propaganda from both sides trying to push whatever agenda they're doing and in media and stuff. And it's like, where do I fall on this? Well, I know that I hate when they censor like interracial couples in movies back in the day. I hated that. I hated when there were biblical movies where everybody was lily white. I hate that. But at the same time, I hate when the opposite too. So that's about all.